Very warm welcome to all of you. How is everyone doing in the cold? Yeah, we need 10 times more energy for the legend who's within us right now. How is everyone doing? Wonderful. Thank you. For the next 45 odd minutes, we're going to have an honest, lovely conversation with none other than Anil Kumble. I am absolutely honored, Anil, to be sparing time with you. And there's just so much that I uncovered about you as an individual beyond the cricketer that you are as I did my research. Some of it will show in the questions. I hope a lot more emerges from the responses. So let's start with the first question. How many of you here are engineers? Quite a few. How many are not? What were you doing in life? No, never mind. So you did mechanical engineering from RV, but you were already playing cricket as a teenager. So what was going in your head? Like, what was the role of education for you as a potential sports person trying to build a career in sports and cricket?
Thank you, Ankur. It's wonderful to be having this conversation with you. And thanks, Onsurity, Colin, and the team for making this happen. Before we even get to that question, I mean, Delhi is pretty close to my heart. And it's not just the 10 wickets, but I've sort of done most things right here as a cricketer. And it is very special. So it's nice to be back here. So probably the weather came back to its normal.
With Bangalore
coming back. Yeah, but it's nice to be here. Engineering or education was always something that was ingrained as a youngster growing up in Bangalore, a typical South Indian family where education was predominantly the number one choice. You didn't have a choice to play sport. But my parents sort of encouraged me to take up sport. I didn't give them an option to stop me from playing because I was decent enough to get through my school, college, and then get into engineering. Engineering was always plan A. Cricket was always plan B.
Really?
Yes. Because like I mentioned, growing up it was only that. So plan B worked for me ahead of plan A. I was still in my second year engineering when I played for India. And once I played for India, then of course India took precedence. And engineering did not take a backstage because I certainly believed that I had to complete. I had committed to doing my engineering. And there was no IPL those days, so it was important that you sort of gave it enough time, and I had those times. Between April to June or May was a cooling off period from international cricket those days. Now it's not, but I had the opportunity to get through my engineering. Don't ask me about mechanical engineering. I knew exactly how to pass an exam, and that's all I did. So that's exactly what I did with cricket too. I knew how to get wickets. I did not know how to spin the ball. And that to me is what I have looked at, and I've been very practical in my approach. And even my engineering was all about that. There were a lot of people who sort of helped me learn the subject. There was one professor in Bangalore who was, his name is Professor Sridhar. I'm still in touch with him, and he sort of tested me first before he even offered me to teach. So I had missed about 9 classes of drawing, and those days it was not I don't know whether they use draft now. I used to use T-square. I mean, I'm sure all of you from my generation can relate to a T-square, but if you go and tell an engineer today, what T-square is, he would say no. So he was, since I had missed 9 classes continuously because of cricketing reasons, he sort of said, the only way that I'm going to accept your paper or your class sheets is to do those drawing classes in college, not at home. You have to complete those 9 papers in class. So after at the end of the day, the college would finish at around 2 o'clock, and then I would sit there for 3 hours and then complete I was the only person in the classroom and with a desk and T-square and completing the course. And then once those 9 were submitted, then he said, you want some help? I said, yes, because I hardly come to college. I need some help. So he then said, why don't you come home? I will take one-on-one classes. And in fact, he taught me about 9 subjects through the second, third year and the final year.
Wow.
So it was something that was very good. And the college themselves started their own attendance for sportsmen, thanks to the way the college principal looked at it as well. At the end of it, you need all these stakeholders to sort of encourage you, otherwise impossible to complete. So the principal said, Anil, since you're going to miss a lot of classes because of your cricket, and 60% attendance was a minimum for you to even get an examination hall ticket. So he said, you can maintain your own register. So every time that you miss a class because of a match or because of some commitment, cricketing commitment, it will be deemed as 100% attendance.
Wow.
So, but I mean, barely the professors knew who I was, nor I knew who my classmates were, because even now I bump into a few of them and they come and tell me that, you know what, I studied with you. I said, oh, is it? I'm sorry, I can't recognize and I can't even relate. But yes, that's
You can
that's
all try that trick today.
So it all sort of manifested because there were some really good Samaritans helping me out to complete my engineering.
Brilliant. That's such a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. There's no way that we are escaping without talking about the seminal Kotla match. At what point did you know, and you're not going to lie, at what point did you know conclusively you will be taking those 10 wickets? Because I'm sure the rest of the team members were like, oh, we'll give it up for you. And we've heard so many stories there. But you knew, boss, aaj to ho gaya.
I think after 7.
Ooh.
Yeah, 6 out of 6 happened before tea.
Yeah.
I bowled from lunch to tea, and then 6 on 6. And then I got a break. It came at the right time. I was getting tired. I had bowled those 16 overs or 15 or 17 overs or whatever it was on the trot. So I got a break, and then I realized, okay, this is a chance for me to better my previous individual performance, because I had 6 on 6. I mean, last few wickets would be easier than the first few. Then 7 happened, 8 and 9 happened in 2 balls. Then, of course, it was just a matter of Srinath trying his hardest not to get a wicket. That's actually the most difficult part, because you're trained to bowl at the stumps. You're never trained, or you're never sort of training regularly to bowl wide.
Yeah.
And here you had to bowl wide enough not to get wided, also not to get a wicket. So it is quite challenging. You have too many parameters to think about when you're bowling, and he did it to perfection. He bowled, I think, a 9-ball over, and there was one instance where Sadagopan Ramesh literally ran towards the ball where the bowler was screaming, don't catch, and the keeper was screaming at him, no catch, don't catch. I'm sure he never heard any of that because it was so loud. But I was far away at third man, where the entire crowd standing behind me said, "Aap chinta mat kariye, aapko 10 milega." So I had the blessings of the Delhi crowd. Not always the Delhi crowd are very favorable, right?
Yeah. No.
Not always. I mean, I've misfielded a couple of times on the boundary, and then you've certainly had a lot of good things said from the boundary line. But this was one instance where I had the blessings of the entire crowd.
That is so awesome.
And Sri did that, and then the 10th wicket, Wasim Akram was on strike. And I don't know how many of you remember, there was a ritual between Sachin and me, where Sachin would hand over the cap and the sweater strategically. I mean, he would do it, whatever gut feel he had. It was not every over, because the first time that he came to me after lunch, before lunch, Pakistan were 100 for no loss.
Yeah.
And he came after lunch, and I changed ends. And then Sachin came and said, let me change your luck. This time I'm going to give the sweater and cap. So he gave it to the umpire, and that over I got a wicket. And every time he sort of did that, I was getting a wicket. And this over too, the last over that I bowled, he again took the cap and sweater and gave it to Wasim Akram. Wasim Akram was on strike, and he gave it to the umpire. And the first ball, I thought, let me give him a single, get Waqar Yunus on strike, an easier scalp.
one.
Wasim was batting for a while and he had got used to it. So I thought maybe give him a single. So I pushed all the fielders back, bowled, he missed it. Then I realized that no way that Wasim is going to take a single and no way that I can let go of this opportunity. And if I let go of that opportunity of getting a wicket this over, then I had to literally beg Srinath to do it again. The first time I didn't do it. Believe me, I didn't ask Sri to do it. We have a telepathy, right? We've played cricket all our lives together, so he knew exactly what to do. But this time I had to ask him. So I knew that I had to get Wasim out in this over, otherwise no chance. So I brought everybody in, and as usual, Wasim played for a straight ball, and it spun.
By design.
Yeah, correct. So, and then it got the inside edge, and then Lakshman took the catch. I'm sure the guys who were around the bat were hoping that the ball wouldn't come to them. Imagine dropping a catch in that moment, finished. As it is, they're so scared when I'm bowling that every catch or every misfield, they're gonna get a mouthful. And here, if someone dropped a catch, it was impossible. So, but I probably was destined to get all 10. It happened on that day.
That is such an incredible. Thank you for that moment. Trust me. It's one of those rare moments where the entire country comes together to celebrate in a manner that perhaps only happens at a World Cup victory or so. So it's just, I had goosebumps when you were explaining it, and I distinctly remember. I was in school at that point of time, but it was such a great moment. The other one, which is, by the way, and this is an honest admission, nothing to do with the 10 wickets. For me, the seminal Anil Kumble picture is you bandaged after the broken jaw and coming to bowl. And like, what is wrong with this, bro? Like, there is a long career ahead of you, and there is so much ahead. Why would you want to risk it? Like, क्या हो जाएगा? एक wicket ले लोगे, कुछ हो जाएगा. But I want to dig into the sports person's mind because it's so hardwired differently from perhaps how normal civilians are. You have a broken jaw, and then you come back bandaged to bowl. What were you telling yourself?
I was just telling myself that my shoulder is fine. What am I doing sitting here? So I said, let me go there, get a couple of wickets, put the team in a position where perhaps we could win the test match. Perhaps we could win the test series. We were 1-1 when we went to that 4th test match in Antigua.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was coming back home because I needed a surgery after the jaw injury. And the flight was booked. So I knew that I only had this session where I could possibly get some wickets and do some damage there. I never thought about the damage that could happen to myself. Anything could have happened. And the one thought was, what's going to happen? Anyway, I'm going to get onto us to a hospital, and there will be surgery. So I'm sure the doctor will fix whatever is going to happen. And that was the thought. And the previous time that we had toured West Indies, we had come very close to winning the series. If you all remember, we couldn't chase down 120 in Barbados, and we lost the test match, and that was still sort of in my mind. And here we had 600 runs plus. Not many times when we toured abroad, you had 600 runs on the board. I thought, and I was the only spinner. Sachin was bowling, and he was sort of turning the ball. And I thought maybe if I go there and then get the team into a position where we could win the test match, or at least get that going. And that was the only thought. I went in, the doctor had advised that I had to hold the jaw in one place, and that's why the physiotherapist Andrew Leapers had that kind of a bandage around my head. So when I went and bowled, I know I got Brian Lara out.
Yeah.
So I keep jokingly telling Lara that, Brian, tell me honestly, did you get scared looking at my face? Were you actually watching the ball? Because if I had known this trick, I would have done this every time I bowled at you. Right? I mean, getting a Brian Lara out cheaply is not easy. And if I had known that he would get scared looking at my face, I would always come bandaged bowling at him. So I got him out. I also got Carl Hooper out of a no ball. Yeah, and that's it. And then after that, I think all the rest of them bowled, and that was one test match where all 11 bowled, and it was a drawn test match. But I never thought that I was doing something courageous. No, I never ever even, that thought didn't even cross my mind. I didn't know what kind of an impact that it would have on people watching the game. I never even, that even didn't even cross my mind. The only thought was, look, I need to go there, get wickets, try and see if I can win this test match, and that was the only thought, and nothing else.
That's
so
beautiful.
Yeah, so that's how I've always played my game, and the only time that I sort of missed a game or didn't bowl because of any injury was if my shoulder was not right. Otherwise, I would always go.
As long as shoulders there,
Yeah.
is there. Brilliant. Wonderful. I want to take you to the England tour of 2007. Tendulkar, Ganguly, Dravid, Lakshman. None of them score a century.
Yeah.
Guess who does? Yeah. Anil Kumble, and that's your first international century.
Yes.
How much did you tease them after that?
No, in fact, I teased them before that because I distinctly remember the chat we had prior to the test match. This was the 4th test match of the series.
Yeah.
And the first 3 test matches, like you mentioned, there was no test hundreds. So in fact, when we had this team meeting, after the team meeting was over, we were just having a conversation, and then I sort of raised this, saying, listen, it's a bit of a shame that, with this kind of quality that we have in this dressing room, we still don't have 100 in the series. Little did I know that I had to show them how to do it. But the excitement of me reaching that 100 was evident on the faces of all these people in the dressing room. They were so happy to see me get 100 because I was always the dominant partner in any partnership with the batting. Whether I was batting with Sachin, whether I was batting with Lakshman. Invariably, I would bat with Lakshman a lot because he was batting at number 6, and I would bat at number 8. And if the number 7 batter, who was MS at that time, if he got out, then invariably I would bat with Lakshman. The only thought whenever I batted was, like I mentioned, I would always be the dominant batting partner. And the first thing that I would tell him is, look, I'm not going to get out. You don't get out. Right? Till you get out, I'm not going to get out. So I'll play. You play your game. Let's have this partnership going. And that was my thought process, saying, okay, if a batter is there, I will hang around. And once he gets out, then I will try and see how many runs I can get. So that was the thought process. And for me, I always thought batting from a bowler's perspective. So I was sort of guessing, okay, this is what he's going to do. And that particular day, all the guesses were right. Because I didn't have the skills nor the eye to sort of bat like a skilled batter. So it took me 116 test matches to figure out what the bowler is going to come up and do. So that was one day where I got all my guesses right, and it worked.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. I want to ask you this, Anil. As it seems to be in the movies, there's like this one moment that changes our lives meaningfully. Is there any such match or series after which you believe you transformed as a performer?
I think there have been many in a career where there are doubts expressed from outside. There are doubts expressed, not necessarily expressed in a way that you hear, but you sort of sense. And there are doubts from within because of the style that I had. So there have been multiple times where I've sort of doubted myself, saying, okay, is this the way that I need to go about playing? Should I change my style? So there was one instance in 1997, 96, 97, around that time, where I went back to trying a classical style of bowling. That didn't work. And then I came back to my own self saying, look, this is the way I'm going to bowl, and I'll try and innovate in a way where I will stick to my own strengths and then be successful. But I think the defining moment for me, like you mentioned, was 2003, because that to me was the change. I was 33, and there were not many sort of backers to take me to Australia. I think Saurav somewhere has mentioned, saying that he had to literally fight to take me in that squad. And I didn't play the first test match in Brisbane, which we drew in that series. And the next test match was in Adelaide. And unfortunately, Harbhajan got injured, and he had to come back home because he had to undergo a surgery for his finger, for his spinning finger. And so he was coming back. So I got an opportunity to play in that game. So the first day, Australia were 400 for 4 or 400 for 5 at the end of test match. I know baseball, we keep talking about baseball. I'm sure for the next 1 month you'll only hear baseball when England are already here, so they'll start talking about baseball. But this was baseball then, 400 runs in 90 overs in a day, and I had one for 110, 120, whatever it was, bowling 30 overs on day one. So I knew that this was the last chance, because if I don't get wickets, yeah, we may lose this test match, but I will definitely be not playing. Even if we win this test match and if I don't get wickets, then difficult. And from a position where there were 400 for 5, you don't think, how can I now? The only thought is to say, how can we restrict them so that we are still in the game? That's what you think. Yes, the game has sort of progressed very quickly because they've scored already 400 on day one. So I thought to myself, I said, sometimes when you are pushed to a corner, it's always good to sort of not think too much about the outcome. So I just said, doesn't matter. I think even if I don't play any other test match from now on, I've still done pretty well as a bowler, as a spinner. I've got more than 300 wickets, and it's not bad. And I've had a 10, 12-year career, not bad. And that, I think, sometimes you sort of let go helps, and that helped in understanding my own game and then thinking what works on the surface, and it worked, and I picked up a 5-wicket haul in that innings. Ajit Agarkar got a 5 in the second innings, and Rahul and Lakshman had that wonderful partnership in the first innings, and even in the second innings, Rahul scored that runs, and we won the test match. And then from there on, I finished the series with 24 wickets in those 3 matches, and that was the turning point for me. That was like a second win, and from there on, I don't think I never looked back. So that to me possibly was the biggest turnaround as a bowler.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I was wondering whether I should put this question or not, but still, we all know that cricket gave you a lot, and at least visibly looks like that. What's the one thing, or perhaps multiple, that you believe cricket took away from you?
I don't think so, anything. I think, like you said, cricket gave me everything, and I acknowledge that. More than me, I think my wife sort of reveres cricket. The name of our house is Krida. We couldn't get a Kannada or a Sanskrit word for cricket, so we said it's Krida. That's what we are. And every time we go past a cricket stadium, it's like a temple for us. So that's the way that I've always revered cricket, because for me, whoever I am is thanks to the game, and I've always believed that I don't think anything has been taken away. I think the adulation, the affection that people have is something that is very unique, and I've sensed it, and I feel that even today, and we sort of are really respectful of that. And I certainly don't think that there's any negative of playing the sport and the country, in a country where it's followed and revered so much. And we all know, at least we all understand the responsibility of being a cricketer in our country, and what you hold as a baton to pass it on to the next generation. So that's, I don't think there's anything that you can take away, or I regret being a cricketer. No,
absolutely.
Nothing at all.
Absolutely fair. Thank you so much. I think that's being honest. When you look at the current Indian cricket team across formats, whichever you pick, is there anything that you wish your time could learn from them, and anything that you would want to tell them that they don't seem to be following?
I don't think we can do that. That's not just relevant to cricket. It's relevant to my kids as well. I mean, this generation, how you sort of put it across is very different to how we sort of took advice from our senior players. Yeah. So the generation shift, I need to take advice from you as to how do you sort of manage the Gen Z. Yeah, so some of the things that I don't even understand. So in that sense, for me, it's always been what from the current generation, I think the fitness levels that these guys have. Yes, I probably got introduced to fitness and understanding, lifting weights and all of that slightly late in my career, not necessarily in the first half of my career. First half was, all we knew was keep running, just keep running, and that should sort out. I mean, you have to run, and we ran, I don't know, I can't, probably if, I can count the number of laps that I've done at Chinnaswamy Stadium, and I've probably gone up all the steps that you see at Chinnaswamy Stadium. Now they're all filled with chairs, but we have done all those, running up and down the steps quite a bit. Cowan Park running, all that is there. But the only time that the first time that I started weight training was after my injury, when I was almost 29. So from there on, I understood the importance of weight training, and I was very regular at that, and that probably gave me the longevity. So yes, that's something that I would certainly want to embrace. Not really how I can tell a young player as to what one needs to look at, but I think the only thing that, even right from my generation, I think the one thing that we were constantly sort of trying to create as a group was to understand the history of the game, and then that I think gives a lot more perspective, and also whenever you sort of like, or whoever is in one's profession, it's always nice to understand or know what has transpired through the generations. And I know that in a sport where every sort of ball that you bowl or every sort of game that you play is dissected, discussed, and compared. But at the end of it, as a team, as an organization that all of you are a part of, I think all of us want the tomorrow to be better than today. Yeah. And if tomorrow is better than today, you don't need to blame today or yesterday saying, no, they were rubbish. So I think that's one thing that I think that's what I have learned, that the cycle always, the wheel always turns, and then you always want to be on the top. But the moment you're looking to move the wheel in the right direction, that's what you want, and that's exactly what I would like to see going forward too, that the next set of Indian cricket team is much better than the current lot of Indian cricket team, and that's what you want to see.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, I have 3 non-cricket questions for you before we open up a very interesting round. The first one is, you have 2 daughters and a son. So will you please settle this debate for us? Are girls easier to raise or boys?
No, when the boy is sandwiched between 2 girls, then it becomes, sort of, the first one gets all the attention till the time that the other 2 are not there. And then the second one, by the time you start giving attention, you have a daughter, and then all the focus and entire, thing focuses on the youngest one, and the middle one gets sort of neglected. So the boy sort of, he just grew on his own.
Story of every boy's life.
Every boy's life, yes. And I think it's, they sort of manage their own things, right? I mean, they just go about doing things, but the 2 girls, the father is always closer to the girls, and the son is someone who you always look up to and you always sort of, say, I want you to do this, I want you to do better. But it's, I'm really proud as a father with all the 3 kids. I think the credit, we had this just offline. I'm an absentee parent, especially when I was playing cricket. It was impossible for me to give the attention. In fact, I remember when my youngest daughter was born, I immediately left for county cricket, played in England, and then from there I came back for a day and then went to Sri Lanka for a month and a half. And the first time, after about 3 months or 3.5 months, I came back from Sri Lanka and my wife was carrying my youngest daughter, and then I walked into the house and she started crying because she thought, who's this guy? This guy is a stranger.
Like,
yeah,
why is this uncle in our
Yeah,
house?
who's this? I have not seen him for so long, and then suddenly who's this walking and trying to grab me? So I guess, that's how as a parent you are, and credit to my wife who's sort of managed all the things to grow, making them, and all of them are now adults. So yes, in that sense, it's very difficult to pick. All 3 are unique in their own way. But the best part about the father and son is we have a similar passion, and it's not cricket, it's wildlife, and it's photography. So recently, the father and son went on a wildlife trip, and that's something that we sort of try and do. And it's a nice conversation to have. And of course, he watches cricket, but he loves wildlife, and we sort of discuss conservation, wildlife, photography, and that's something that keeps us going.
Fantastic, wonderful. Answer daughters, okay. All right.
No, daughters when daughters are home. Son when it's son. I mean, that's how parenting is.
Always is. What's Kumble's morning routine like?
Oh, it's early start. Yeah, always been an early start, so around 6:30, and then just have a coffee and straight to the gym, but not the same kind of rigor that I once had. I try and keep it going. Definitely not the kind of motivation that I used to have for lifting weights, so that's a challenge. Running has become a challenge because of various injuries and the way the body has sort of taken a toll. So yes, you try and keep the legs and arms moving and try and push weights, and that's the first half. And then go into the office, which is not too far. I mean, in Bangalore, you can't really have beyond 2.5 kilometers, then it will take you 40 minutes. But so the office is just 200 meters from home.
Lovely.
So you go there and then spend time. So that's it. And then after that, I mean, I'm like 12:30 lunch, 6 o'clock dinner, and that's it.
You have an afternoon nap?
No, never had one. Never had one, even during my playing days. So yeah, no matter what time I wake up. No.
And what time do you go to bed?
Oh, 10.
Okay.
10:30 max, unless it's IPL. So that was the first time that I saw 1 o'clock in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was when I played. I mean, I don't know how many of you remember, there used to be a fashion show at 1 in 2008, 2009, and I played for RCB, so it was, it was great. So at 1 a.m. we were asked to sit in a fashion show. I was wondering, what am I doing here? So yeah, it was quite different, and it was quite unique to sort of have that.
Lovely.
But I mean, those are the changes that you sort of get used to, and then you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
So in the IPL, it's still a challenge now, because I invariably wake up at the same time, no matter what time I sleep. So yeah, so no sleep. So and I don't have a nap. So yeah, so I walk around like a zombie.
I'll highly recommend an afternoon nap.
Thank you.
As a change in lifestyle.
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. At what point did you realize you're really rich?
Not even now. No, I think.
What's your relationship with money? I'd love to know that. Like, who manages it? Are you particularly fond of it? Do you care about it? What's the role
I certainly care about it. I'm not a finance guy. I don't understand the finance market. So it's all sort of goes over my head. But I certainly have a financial manager who sort of I have a conversation with. I mean, I'm not, I would rather take risks on the field than in the financial market. I'm not a risky guy. I would still be conservative and try and manage that way. But I'm always constantly looking at how can I sort of ensure that the family is comfortable and then sort of set goals for their sort of milestones and all of that. So that planning is obviously there. But at the end of it, I've always been sort of someone who's worked, from the age of literally 15, 16. I've been out of home and playing the sport and literally managing not just my career, my life, my finance, but also managing the household right from that 17, 18 age. So I fully understand the value of money and understand the importance of passing on that kind of a knowledge to my children as well. So they certainly value that. And I mean, I think that to me is more important than the whatever rich you sort of allude to. I don't know. I mean, whether when you say rich, is it money or is it the kind of people's admiration or the kind of people's respect that you have? For me, that's more important. My, I think, reputation is what I have been able to achieve over the years, and that to me is the key. Absolutely. Yes, with that, the byproduct is money. It comes, that's fine, but I don't like to chase just that.
Awesome. Wonderful. On that note, thank you. Last section, and we'll let you be, we'll open the floor for the audience. This section is called Kumble Calling Kumble.
Okay.
And here's how it works.
Yeah.
It's basically designed to make me win. And I have done my research on 5 questions, which are about you and your cricketing career. And the idea is, how much do you remember your own career?
Okay.
And I'm hoping that there's at least one question that you will get wrong so that I score. So that's how it works. I score when you don't get it right. First question, are you ready?
Yeah.
There's no coffee hamper, but lots of love to run.
Sure.
So Muralidharan has bowled 44,039 balls in Test cricket and is the highest balls bowled bowler. You're number 2.
Yeah.
How many balls have you bowled?
Oh. No way, I don't know. So you got me. I mean, about 44, 43,000, something like that, but I don't know the
Anybody
exact number.
guessing?
I don't know the exact number.
Yes, sir. Do you know? Wonderful!
No,
how are you doing, Mr. Anil Kumble? Lovely. It's 40,850 balls as number 2 in the world.
Well done.
Fantastic.
I knew I was averaging about 55, 56 overs. So just to give you, when IPL first started, I was already close to retiring, and I was 38. And for me, I needed about 4 overs to warm up. And here 4 overs was, that's
match
it.
over.
Yeah, and I was bowling 55, 60 overs in a match. And here, if you bowl 64 overs, you've done an IPL. Yeah. Right? So that's it. Maximum you can play is about 16 games then. Now you can play 17. But 64 overs, that's it. So I had to literally tune my mind saying, oh, okay, this can be achieved. I need to start thinking that 1 over is a spell. And the best way that I sort of approached, because I was, still needed that kind of warm up. I said, okay, let me put myself in a difficult situation. That will help me bring the best out. Otherwise, it's very difficult for me to sort of go through this 4 overs. So when I became captain, I always chose the tough overs. I said, okay, I mean, every over is a tough over in a 20-over game, but the power play where you have restrictions, then you sort of say, okay, let me just bowl this over. There's a partnership, let me bowl this over. Then at least the adrenaline pumps in. So that was the toughest challenge. So yeah, I didn't know the exact number, sorry.
That's smart. Well, 1-0. We're winning, we're winning. All right. Who was the last wicket of your career?
Oh, test match? Test match?
Test.
Okay, that's Mitchell Johnson.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Mitchell
Cotton
Johnson.
Bowl. Yeah, cotton bowled here in Delhi.
Yes, exactly. Fantastic. All right. I am now going to go to the final ball of your test career.
Yeah, that was a boundary. I didn't like it.
Oh my God, you remember that? Who did you bowl to?
Matthew Hayden.
Ah, man, this guy's
Yeah.
Good job. Matthew Hayden for a 4,
Yeah.
and we can imagine that you didn't like that at all. You hold the world record for the largest number of cotton ball dismissals in test. How many?
36, 37, 36, something like that. Very
Sir,
close.
what's the answer?
Very close.
Oh, you don't know?
Yeah, very close.
35.
35.
35. Well, you're there. You're
Yeah,
there.
I'm there.
You're there.
Maybe I caught off a no ball. 36.
Awesome. Last one. I had no idea about this. You've been featured in a movie.
Yeah.
Which one?
Mirabai not out.
Which year was it?
Oh, I don't remember. 2005?
4. Well, you're there. Mirabai not out. Did you know that Anil Kumble has been featured in a movie?
Yeah.
Well, you were yourself,
Yeah,
so it's not
yes,
that you were acting,
yes, yes.
which
Yes.
otherwise we would have had another career. But thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
thank
being
you,
such a
Ankur.
wonderful
Thank you.
sport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ankur, for such intriguing questions that truly, captured the essence of Anil's journey across cricket, entrepreneurship, and life. And Anil, your willingness to share, reflect, and connect with the audience has definitely left an indelible mark on this evening. So thanks very much. I'm sure all of us here is going to take home a bag full of inspiration and insights. Now, before we open up the floor for audience questions, I would request Ankur and Anil to exchange the memorabilia they've brought for each other. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this exchange is a tangible representation of the shared experiences and insights we've gained tonight.
Thank you so much. Do we have?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So I've written a book which I'd love to gift you, Anil, and of the 40,850 balls that you've bowled,
Thank you.
I will take one of them with your signature. Do we
We're
have
just getting your marker.
I do
yes.
have a pen.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Well, afterwards, we will. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I will just wait for.
Can we all hear it for Anil and Ankur, everybody?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Could you please introduce yourself and then
Sure.
follow that up with your
Hi,
question?
my name is Girish Shivani. I run a venture capital fund called Your Nest. We've had a conversation offline once in a while, earlier once, Anil, with you. So Anil, is being cricketer more difficult or is being an entrepreneur more difficult? And what is more exciting as well?
Yeah, I think both are exciting. Being an entrepreneur is certainly more difficult for me. Being a cricketer was a lot easier because the score sheet would be immediate, and I would prefer that rather than go through a process where you don't know. Basically, you may hit a wall at the end of 3 months, 6 months, or probably hit a jackpot. But yeah, you're constantly looking to build a team and trying to get, especially in the second venture that I have started, the sports tech startup. It's been a little more challenging because it's a niche product, and whereas with Tenwick, initially it was quite a challenge for us, but now slowly people are getting into understanding the need for grassroots sports and its development. So schools are a lot more open to having discussions, and even government agencies are now opening up to private entities to come and take over their sporting operations, and that's enabled us to sort of get deeper into that space. But for me, entrepreneurship has been certainly a different challenge. Cricket was always something that was in my hands, whereas entrepreneurship is not exactly in my hands. I certainly try and build it, but it requires a lot more moving parts to all come together.
Hey, hello everyone. Myself Deepak Meena. I am the founder of Flyzy. So one thing I would like to ask you is that you have captained Indian team. You were coach of that team. So as a leader, what's your advice for like startup founders? So for me, I face a lot of problems. Like my team is burned out, but my clients are asking for the product. I'm jumping here and there. Whether should I listen to my team or the client? I know that my money is stuck if I don't deliver the product, and the salary is about to go in the 2 days. So I have to crack this deal, and for that I need to push my team. So how you manage all these things as a leader, like when you are in sort of crisis, and what you do?
Yeah, it's never easy to bring about a balance for everything. You certainly have to, at least from a cricketing perspective, you're constantly pushed. You don't have a respite. You sort of try and engage players or build their even training schedules based on how much workloads that you may expect them over the next few months, or what they've been doing previously. So you just have to manage those workloads and try and build it. But in the entrepreneurial world, I don't think you can have it's not an easy decision to make, because like you said, the clients is not in your control. They are pushing you for deadlines, and then the team probably has burned out. So it's quite a challenge. But from a cricketing perspective, you sort of manage the workloads based on who you're playing, which teams you're playing, and suppose you're on a tour. If there's a tour match, I mean, those days you had tour match. Now you don't even have a tour match. There's no time for that. They just land up. 2 days later, they're playing a test match. I mean, similarly, England is coming straight for a test match. So how do you then, build up? So you sort of try and listen to your players, but not to every player, because if you're listening to every player saying, look, I need a break, then you're nowhere. So you sort of know which ones to listen to, which ones to push, because there are two sets. One where they don't need any push. They automatically do things on their own. They don't need any leadership to be behind them. There are those who will need you to handhold, drag them along, motivate them, a bit of a kick up their backside. All of that you will have to do. So those ones you will have to manage. The ones who sort of you don't need any hand holding, those are ones you sort of take a call, how much of them needs to be given a break. All that is easier to handle. So it all depends on the personality behind the person who is doing that particular skill for you, rather than just looking at the skill sets.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Veteran Wing Commander Sudhakaran. I would certainly not test your memory because it was 14 years before we connected in KCA when you were fighting for your elections. So it's been a long time, I'm getting this opportunity, but I'm not going to test your memory. But then the question is, I run an AI company, Q Gates. It's about quantum intelligence, and I look for data patterns. And the era that you people played, you, Lakshman, Sachin, and Dravid, there is a pattern that I see, that you people were so disciplined. I probably saw you doing the simple things straight, and that's probably was, as per me, the secret for your longevity and your endurance. Am I reading it right, or was there something more to the recipe that contributed to your success and longevity?
No, I think just to answer your question in terms of longevity, I think what we all did really well was to cancel the noise that's around you. Good, bad, there are times when you're performing well and there is success, so everyone sort of praises you and helps you get certainly elevated in terms of what you feel from an emotional point of view. You still need to create that balance of how much sort of to soak it in and then stay grounded and then still go through the process of day in, day out doing the things that you're supposed to be successful. And similarly, criticisms There were no social media those days, so you didn't really know the world trolling. But there were, certainly critics who gave you an ultimatum about what they thought of you, and that would happen every game, good or bad. So how much of that to sort of take it in? I was someone who sort of, took it right on my face, on my chin. I never thought that I had to distance myself from it. I would read newspapers, I would go through all of them, it didn't really affect me. I would soak it in and then say, okay, this is something that I have to cancel, and then just go about doing my job. All of them were the same, more or less. So all of us during our time were pretty process driven, and although those terminologies have come much later, we just kept it simple, got through day in, day out doing the same thing, and it was quite repetitive. And for me as a bowler, the biggest feedback mechanism were these batters, not necessarily the coaches, because I was very unorthodox in my approach. For me, the learning process came from bowling at these batters and getting a feedback from, what do you think? Am I bowling the right pace? Am I bowling the right length? And yes, there was no AI, but there was not much data that was shown to us, but yet my approach was always been that. I said it just before we came in here, is that my test century came after 116 test matches. That was mostly because the AI was inside, and I could read the bowler what was happening the next ball, and I got it right once at least. So the data helped me once to get 100. So in that sense, you were constantly looking at these data, looking at patterns. In fact, I had started a company called Stumped in 96, around 95, 96, where we took a laptop into the Indian dressing room. There were no video feedbacks. We were just doing scoring and basically picking patterns of what the bowler is doing, because it's a pattern. I get hit for a 4, what's my comeback ball? As a batter, I get beaten, what's my next ball? How am I going to play it? Right? It's very similar. And when you are under the pump, when you know that you need 6 runs, 8 runs, 10 runs and over, what's the go-to shot as a batter? What's the go-to ball as a bowler? What's your approach? So those are patterns that you pick up over a period of time. So I was picking up those patterns just with data. I knew that somebody was definitely coming back in his 8th over in a 50-over game. I knew that the 4th ball would be a slow ball. So if I was batting, I would play for the slow ball rather than the fast one. So I think those kind of data, that's how I've played my game. But people are very different. The way they approach, they don't like all this. Some people don't like it. Some people accept it. So I think it's individual based, but certainly what I would certainly give credit to the era that I played in, the players that I played with. They were extremely committed to their approach and their patterns, and they knew that this would work for them, and they continued to do that. And also, the comfort that we had of having conversations, having difficult conversations, was a lot easier.
Yeah. Thank you, Anil. Thank you so much for sharing this in detail, basically. So I have a question. My name is Rajesh Manjal. I run a company called M Health. We are into wellness, basically. Today in the startup world, we say fail fast, right? If you have to fail fast and move on, right? So that's something basically which is a trend, and which is something basically which Ankur will also agree that key to kind of move fast, right? But in today's, as you talked about Gen Z, right? They have not seen the failure. And in the fast-paced thing, particularly, what is the advice, or how do you kind of handle the failure in terms of whether in the entrepreneurship or when you were into the field? Because that time was very different. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought you were saying something. So that time was very different. Today is basically fail fast, right? So how do you manage that failure? How do you kind of come out from that breakout time, basically? How do you kind of do that? Because in startup, you always, as I said, that customer is asking something, your team is asking something, paise hai nahi bank mein, theek hai? And how do you kind of manage everything
being a founder. So how do you kind of come out from the situation?
Sir, play a sport, sir. You will definitely.
So I run.
No, I'm saying, that's all I tell people. Saying you play a sport, you'll realize what failure is, because every day the score sheet will tell you whether you're good, bad, or you need to restart. So for me, sport has been the learning. And whether you win or lose, you still have to get up and start performing for the next game. I mean, World Cup finals was a classic example. We did exceptionally well for 10 games, and then all of us, including me, we believed that it's just a no-brainer that this team is going to win the World Cup. But it doesn't happen. 4 days later, 5 days later, you still have to wake up. It's not easy. It's not that the players have got over it. Don't think that. I've never got over the World Cup loss that we had. I've never got over the World Cup semi-final loss we had in 1996. I've never got over the 2003 World Cup, nor any of the World Cups that I've played, nor some of the matches that we have lost. But yet you still have to go ahead and do it. That's the beauty of sport. And that's one thing that I think the current generation is missing, where people are not playing active sport. The sport is, FIFA, then whatever you play on your phone. I would encourage, and that's one of the reasons why my first company that we started, we are encouraging kids to start playing any sport, which hopefully will become the part and parcel of their lifestyle. Because you play sport, then handling failure is a lot easier, in my view, at least. And you don't really dive, you go, yes, you sort of feel dejected, but you don't really go down with it, nor when you are successful, you sort of keep floating high for a long time. Because cricket sort of brings you, it's like life itself. Everybody remembers the 10 wickets. 4 days later, I struggled to get 1 wicket against Pakistan. The same players, different pitch, different day. It was like that. Yeah, I mean, that's how life is. So for me, I've always believed that sport sort of teaches you, how to balance success and failure. And that's exactly what I keep telling all the young, whoever I meet, including my kids. I keep pushing them to play a sport. I always believe that, sir. I always believe that sport will train without you actually training. It happens on its own. You sort of have to accept both similarly. You can't change emotions just because you've been successful versus how you've sort of failed. The balance automatically happens. And the people who have sort of accepted that remain, the path remains like that in your emotional well-being. It doesn't go like that. The moment it goes like this, then performances also go like that. So I think, yes, thank you.
Himanshu, representing Vision India Services. My question, actually 2 questions. One, how difficult or easy it was to coach Team India, full of modern greats like Virat Kohli, and as a coach handling Virat Kohli. Second is bowling to Arvind De Silva. I heard you saying he was the most difficult batsman you faced ever.
Yeah, I think coming to the second part first, Arvind De Silva was a great player. It was quite unique to bowl at someone like Arvind De Silva because he played on the length. I sort of constructed all my strategy on length, on how I can sort of deceive a batter on length. Arvinda was someone who sort of changed that approach to me because he was quite short in stature and he was a very good back foot player, and he literally stood at the crease when he was literally hitting the stumps. That close he was to the stumps. So I had to change my normal length. That became very difficult for me. So the inaccuracies of my bowling sort of helped him maneuver and get the better of me. Coming back to your first question, I don't think it was difficult at all. I mean, for me as a coach, when I look at a coaching role of a team, I don't think you're looking at coaching the superstars, whether it's Virat, whether it is Rohit, whether it is MS Dhoni, you're not. I think as a coach, my role is to fast track the younger lot into how they can get better, understand situations, understand solve. It's all about problem solving. Cricket is that. I mean, life is all about that. All of us are entrepreneurs here. You're constantly solving problems, even in your family. That's all you're doing. And how you can sort of enable that sort of assist the problem solving is all you're doing. And especially in cricket, coach's role is very limited. It's always the captain who takes the call. Coach's role is only to enable a discussion where everyone participates, and then you have some sort of a core which starts running the group, because that's important. Then the transition becomes easier. It's a lot healthier for the group, and that's exactly how I've always believed that one needs to do. And it's not consensus, but it's important to have that communication around a group. And I've never had any issues with anybody at all. So in that sense, I've had a fantastic coaching an Indian team. Yes, of course, the pressure of performance. You're judged not just the scoreboard, but literally every single day. So that way, that's the pressure. It's much more difficult being a part of an Indian cricket team than because you're constantly in focus. Rahul will probably feel the same as the coach now, because the focus is on the coach, on India's performance in every single game. Other than that, from an Indian coaching perspective, there's not much that you can do. You can, it's only about organizing and preparing a team that you believe they're prepared for the best for all the situations that they may encounter, and that's all you can do as a coach. So yes, as a player, as a bowler, you're in control. As a coach, you sort of enable all of that, and then hope that everything happens the way you expect it to.
My name is Asim. I'm founder for DBox Global. I have two quick questions to you. First question is, you have a wonderful voice. Do you sing also? And second question is, what was your stress buster?
Oh, yeah, the singing, I think all of us do. So I don't think I'm any exception. Thank you so much for the compliment. But my stress buster is photography. For me, picking up a camera and just going into the jungle is a great stress buster. And that's the connect that I have with my son too. So yes, that's something that I constantly do. Try and do it as frequent as possible. But yeah, it's quite challenging, but I try and do that.
Do we see a coffee table book coming from your camera roll someday?
My son has overtaken me on that, so he's certainly done that already. He's he's brought out a book last year.
Wow.
Yeah, from his photography, all his pictures. So I did bring out a book called Wide Angle. This was in 2009 from my cricketing days. So I used to always carry a camera, and I picked, I took pictures of off-field, and those are all in that book. But I haven't brought out any wildlife book. But yeah, I think I have enough images now that I can certainly create some.
Totally.
Yeah, I can do a collection. Yeah, sure.
Totally.